Hey, it's Elena. Revenge Shift tells stories you won't forget. Subscribe if you're ready. Let's begin. I found strangers unpacking in my guest room at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'd just finished a 14-hour shift coordinating emergency response for the county's 911 system. Shoes still on, keys still in my hand, and there they were. A woman, her husband assembling an IKEA bed frame, their 7-year-old daughter watching me from a suitcase with the careful stillness of a kid who's moved too many times. "Who are you?" "We're the new tenants," the woman said, holding up a lease on her phone. "First month's rent plus deposit, already paid." I read it. My address, my property. Landlord's signature line. Margaret Chin, property manager. Margaret Chin was my mother. I didn't manage that house. I owned it outright. Deed in my name alone. Bought 6 months earlier with 12 years of overnight shifts nobody else wanted. I called her from my car. "Sweetheart, we were going to tell you," she said, bright as ever. "That house is too big for one person. We thought you'd understand. You used my property as collateral for a lease you have no legal right to sign. Don't be dramatic. We found 3 more families interested in the other rooms." I hung up. Their attorney, David Restrepo, showed up the next morning. My mother arrived too, in her church volunteer outfit, insisting family didn't need paperwork to act on my behalf. Restrepo pulled the county deed records on his laptop. Sole ownership, Emma Chin. No co-owners, no management authorization on file. "California law requires written authorization," he told her. "Without it, this lease is fraudulent." My mother pivoted straight to guilt. "Your brother needs—" "My brother is 31, I said. "This isn't about him." But it always was. I'd started documenting my parents' pattern back in college. Not because I expected to need it, but because I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind. Every loan that became a gift the moment I asked for it back. At 22, I co-signed my brother Jason's car lease. He missed payments. I paid $8,400 to stop the repossession. At 25, my father put a business expansion on my credit cards. $22,000 became $27,300 with fees. My credit score fell from 780 to 640. And when I asked for repayment, he told me he'd fed me for 18 years, and I was charging him interest. At 27, I missed my college roommate's wedding in Barcelona because Jason was having a crisis. A 6-week breakup. I forfeited a $1,200 ticket. Sarah and I didn't speak again. That's when I started the spreadsheet. Date, amount, promise made, promise broken, their excuse, the actual outcome. The total came to $73,280. The pattern was mathematical, undeniable. Restrepo pulled me aside. My parents had listed my house on Craigslist and Zillow, running it as a rental at up to $1,900 a room, collecting $18,200 from 4 families, including a disabled veteran, a single mother, and a grad student, using a Wells Fargo account they'd opened in my name. If the deal collapsed, his clients would be homeless in 9 days. "I'm not the villain here," I said. "I know," he said. "But they are the victims. Your parents targeted people too desperate to ask hard questions. The police called it a civil matter. Civil court meant months of delay, while 4 families stayed displaced, and my parents rewrote the story again. So I used what I actually knew, how systems talk to each other. I called the county tax assessor, unreported rental income, automatic audit territory. I called the IRS, suspected tax fraud, filed Form 3949A. I called the Department of Consumer Affairs, unlicensed property management, a misdemeanor. I called Wells Fargo fraud. They froze the account same day. 4 calls, 4 case numbers, systems now running with or without me. My mother called, furious. "You're going to send your own parents to jail? I'm going to let the systems you violated determine appropriate consequences." My father tried reason next. The tone that usually preceded threats. "We'll return the deposits," he said. "We'll apologize. Pretend this never happened. You collected $18,200 through fraud, listed my property without authorization, opened bank accounts in my name. Those things don't unhappen. We were going to give you the money, he said. After a management fee. How much? Silence. 40%. Standard rate. 40% of my mortgage, taxes, and maintenance, every year, while I did the actual paying. That's not help, I said. That's theft with extra steps. The IRS moved fast. Within a week, my parents had an audit notice covering 3 years and a case elevated to criminal investigation. Turns out I wasn't their first target, just the first to report it. Restrepo called again. My parents wanted to settle, return the deposits, cover relocation costs, drop all claim to my property, in exchange for no criminal charges. I told him I'd already filed federal reports. Those don't get unfiled. We met at a Starbucks. Neutral ground, witnesses. My mother looked smaller. My father looked furious. We made mistakes, he said. You're supposed to forgive us. That's what family does. Family doesn't commit fraud, I said. Family doesn't exploit 4 vulnerable strangers for a 40% cut. They couldn't repay the deposits, already spent, on Jason's gambling debts. Dangerous people, my father said. We were protecting him by stealing from me and 4 desperate families. I laid 12 years of documentation on the table. Loan agreements, texts, bank transfers, every broken promise cataloged. You're going to sell your rental properties and repay every family you defrauded. You're going to cooperate with the IRS, and you're going to stay out of my financial life, permanently. Or what, my father said. Or I testify, under oath, with receipts. 6 weeks later, the Franchise Tax Board filed state charges. The IRS added federal counts: wire fraud, bank fraud, structuring, false returns. My parents burned through 3 lawyers, each one telling them to take the plea, each one fired for saying so. Jason called for the first time in months, furious, accusing me of destroying the family, of being jealous that I'd always been the boring one. I told him I coordinate emergency response for 340,000 people. I route ambulances. I evacuate wildfire zones. I'm not boring. I'm competent. And our parents weaponized his failures to exploit my competence for 12 years. I was done being the family ATM. Restrepo later told me all 4 families landed safely. Section 8 vouchers, VA housing priority, restitution ordered by the court. You protected them, he said. You could have just evicted everyone and walked away. I hadn't thought of it that way. I just followed the logic: report the crime, let the system run. At trial, I testified for 90 minutes, walked the jury through the spreadsheet. The prosecutor asked why I'd kept such detailed records. Because they told me I was remembering wrong every time I brought it up, I said. I documented everything to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. Did it work? Yes. And eventually it proved it to 12 other people too. My mother cried on the stand, said I'd always been difficult, said she never understood my anger. The jury took 6 hours, guilty on all counts. My father got 18 months federal. My mother got 12 months plus probation. The investigation also surfaced that Jason had gambled away $127,000 in 2 years, the real hole my parents had been robbing me to fill. Restitution: $73,280 to me, $18,200 to the tenants, plus court costs. They sold the rental properties, the retirement accounts, my father's car collection. They'll be paying it off until they're 75. 6 months later, Sarah emailed me, the roommate whose wedding I'd missed. She'd seen the trial coverage. She was sorry she hadn't understood. Sorry she'd thought I chose my family over her, instead of realizing I was being controlled by it. We met for coffee and talked for 4 hours. She's getting married again. This time, I'm the maid of honor. I still work in emergency services. I still route the right resources to the right crises. But now I apply the same skills to my own life. I watch for the pattern. I activate the right system. And I let accountability run its course. My parents still send letters through their lawyer, asking me to remember the good times, asking for forgiveness. I don't answer. Not because I'm angry, because I'm done being the emergency they only call when they need extraction. They wanted me to believe family meant infinite forgiveness. I learned something better. Family means reciprocal protection, mutual respect, honest accounting. Everything else is just people using your love as leverage. I don't give leverage anymore. I just give accurate information to the people whose job it is to respond.